perspectives to help us better understand race matters in America. We're joined by Professor Lamont Slater, an instructor and program coordinator for the Center for Global Education and Experience for Southern Africa, Namibia. Welcome, Lamont. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Let's perhaps start off with giving us a general overview of race matters as it stands right now in America.
Yeah, so I think race matters as it stands right now in America is very tense right now. I think that it's always been like that, even from the beginning after slavery, 1865 ended, and further legislation after that. But in the current time, I think that because of the current president and his pretty much fanning of the flames of racism, it has emboldened people to really come outside the box with their racism, whereas beforehand, especially in the workplace, it was more hidden. So, it was less of a threat at that time. But now since people are emboldened, we're starting to see a new form of racism right there in the front.
Mm-hmm. The aftermath from the Supremists Unite the Right rally in Seville this weekend drew a popular response from good liberal white Americans, and which is, well, it's not us. Are they trying to say that violence and racism isn't a part of the real America?
Well, I think they've always said that. If you look at the history, what it states is that even going back to the Freedmen's Bureau, there's always been white allies from back then, prior to 1865. Moving forward, you also had white groups that helped found the NAACP. So I mean, we always had those allies there. But I think that there's a small segment that's saying that this is not us. But look, the bottom line is that we need changes within the legislative branch, the structural branches, and for the majority, it is them, and so there are people that don't believe in that, but we need the people that don't believe in that to use their influence to influence the people that have the power to change it from a structural dynamic as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump in the press conference blamed violence coming from both sides. What exactly does he mean by that?
Well, look, there's only one side. I mean, what Donald Trump is referring to, when he says both sides, he's talking about apparently white supremacy on the one side, and then he's also giving blame to the Black Lives Matter movement and also the anti-fascist movement. But look, there's only one side to blame. I mean, the anti-fascist movement wasn't responsible for driving a car through a crowded lot. It's terrorism. He won't denounce it. Black Lives Matter, people that's just trying to advocate for Black Lives Matter, they know Black Lives Matter, but the reason why the group is in existence in the first place is because the legal system that's in place, they've always persisted that Black lives didn't matter since the inception. And so that's where that's coming from.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned a terrorist act, the car being driven through a crowd. When does it actually constitute a terrorist act? I mean, let's, for argument's say, an Abdul or a Muhammad was behind the wheel. How do they have played out differently?
Yeah, for sure. I think it would have been definitely terrorism then. I mean, if it's a Muslim involved, then automatically it's just like a buzzword. It's terrorism before they even know the facts. Donald Trump said the other day that he had to know all of the facts before he came out with his statement. But when it comes to Muslims, when it comes to black people, you don't need all of the facts. But when it comes to whites, we have to give them the benefit of the doubt. This is how it is. This is how it's always been in the United States, even looking at other acts of terrorism, Ku Klux Klan, Oklahoma City bombing, etc. But it's just hidden behind the veil of white supremacy.
Mm-hmm. Now, this has definitely been a wake-up call. What do you think is the way forward for Americans, especially young Americans who want nothing to do with racism, who want everything, they want to unite, they have all this, they have more in common than they have, not in common. What's the way forward now?
I think it's twofold. I think that from a black perspective, I think that the way forward is to combine resources, support black banks, support black hospitals. Growing up, my children went to a black hospital in 1995. There were 16 black hospitals at the time, but currently there are no black hospitals in the United States that are privately, independently owned by black people. So I think that the way forward is to combine resources, and for those that are not black or that don't that are not a part of the African American group, that they need to advocate from a structural and a legal standpoint for those rights. It takes more than just holding up a sign that says Black Lives Matter. You have to really make it matter.
Mm-hmm. Lamont, it's been a great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Fortunately, time is never on our side.
Hey.
I was Professor Lamont Slater, an instructor and program coordinator for the Center for Global Education and Experience for Southern Africa, shedding some light on the race matters in America. We move on.